Hi learners, welcome to my channel. In the previous videos in this series, we have discussed the history of English literature starting from the Old English up till the Age of Revival, and in this video today we will come to the very famous and very important, the Elizabethan age. If you have not already watched the previous videos in this series, my suggestion again, like always, is going to be that you should watch those ones in order to have a better understanding of how things have been progressing so far. Plus, like I say, it's going to be helpful for you for the exams as well, because again of that chronological thing that I always say, right? So, are you guys ready? Let's get started. The Elizabethan period, this is regarded as one of the most important, significant eras in English literature, often referred to as the Golden Age. This period is celebrated for the emergence of several extraordinary and influential writers. And who's the most notable one? Any guesses? Obviously, our favorite William Shakespeare, our bard. The Elizabethan era spanned from 1558 to 1603, during which England underwent substantial social, economic transformations. You need to remember these years, okay? Because 1558 to 1603, that's the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, which is how the period also gets its name, okay? Do remember the years. I'll say this again because it has been asked in the papers before. Now, Queen Elizabeth I, she was known as the Virgin Queen. Why? Because she did not marry. Her rule brought much needed political stability to England, which was a stark contrast to the preceding years that were marked, by these conflicts, such as we had that Wars of the Roses that we talked about between the houses of York and Lancaster. With these internal and external conflicts ceasing, there was a newfound focus on social and artistic pursuits, including literature. See, this is again something that I have told you before as well, that only when there is stability, only then development is going to happen, be it in the arts, literature, social, cultural, any kind of development, okay? That's exactly why one saw development during this particular period as well, during the Elizabethan age, because there was political stability, okay? Also note that the advent of the printing press in England during the Age of Revival, I told you about that, okay? That played a pivotal role in this literary flourish, in this literary development. Introduced by William Caxton in London in 1476. Remember this year, very important fact for the exams. You have to remember that William Caxton was the one who introduced the printing press in England in 1476, which revolutionized the spread of literature because it made books more accessible and affordable to the people, right? So this technological advancement significantly contributed to the spread of knowledge, to the spread of ideas, fueling the intellectual and artistic growth of the Elizabethan era. Additionally, you will see that this period also saw numerous explorations and discovery of new lands by English sailors. Columbus was not English, Vasco da Gama was not English, but now we're talking about English sailors. We have figures like Sir Walter Raleigh and Sir Francis Drake, two famous explorers during this age. So this age of exploration, it laid the foundations for the subsequent British colonization efforts, okay? Now, any discussion of this Elizabethan age is incomplete without an understanding of the Renaissance. The Renaissance, which means rebirth, the literal meaning is rebirth, okay? That's what Renaissance means. That signified a renewed interest in the classical learning and the arts of ancient Greece and Rome during the 14th century. Now, Italy, particularly Rome, that's recognized as the birthplace of the Renaissance. Why? Because of its rich historical and cultural heritage from the Roman civilization, right? The dissemination of the Renaissance ideas that was facilitated by these European scholars who had traveled to Italy, and they were inspired by its art and its culture, and they carried these influences back to their homelands, including to countries like Germany, Spain, and for our purposes here, England. This intellectual revival, among other things, it emphasized on humanism, deeply influencing English literature and arts. So although it started in Italy in the 14th century, the Elizabethan age is the time when you see it in full glory in England, okay? The Elizabethan period, also known as the English Renaissance, thus marked a time of remarkable literary and cultural achievements. The revival of classical knowledge, coupled with the stability provided by Elizabeth I's reign and the technological advancements of the printing press, all that together created an environment where literature and arts could thrive. Now, I had just mentioned a word before, humanism, है ना? It is another key term associated with the Renaissance. Humanism is a philosophy that emphasizes the worth, the dignity, and the potential of human beings. It posits that life should be centered around human interests and reason rather than doctrines and regulations of the church. Now, see, again, remember here that before the Renaissance, the church was the one that held supreme power over the society. It would dictate the cultural and the intellectual pursuits as well. However, when the Renaissance came with the ushering of the Renaissance, it brought in a new focus on human potential and rationality, asserting that humans are the finest creation of God and should use their reason and humanity to guide their lives rather than just strictly adhering to the religious beliefs. This is what Renaissance was saying. This is what humanism was saying, okay? And now, since we have talked about the historical and the political background, let's now have a look at some of the most prominent literary works and the writers from this particular era. Now, literature during this Elizabethan period primarily comprised dramas and poetry, with notable playwrights and poets emerging. Although we have a few prominent prose writers like Francis Bacon and Robert Greene, who wrote essays and pamphlets, these were not as significant as the dramatic and poetic works. Now, Francis Bacon certainly is a very important figure, but this is something that I will take up when I talk about the Jacobean age in my next lecture, so just wait till then. Now, coming back to the major writers here, obviously we have the William Shakespeare, who stands out as the most important dramatist of the Elizabethan period. I do have many videos on Shakespeare himself, just Shakespeare and his works on my YouTube channel. If you want, you can explore them to study more about Shakespeare and his works in depth. Apart from Shakespeare, I also want to introduce you to the university wits here. Now, university wits, it's an important term. They were these group of professional writers during the Elizabethan period who were mainly active before the arrival of Shakespeare on the scene. Okay, so after Shakespeare comes, everything else just fades away. Now, the university wits, they included 7 members. Now, 3 were graduates from the Cambridge University, 3 were graduates from the Oxford University, and then there was Thomas Kidd, who had not attended either of the university, and he's sometimes included in the university wits, okay? This group was among the first to pursue writing as a professional career, unlike the earlier writers for whom writing was a secondary pursuit, okay? I talk about each of the university wits in detail in my online course. You can visit my website, theankitajain.com, for more details on the course, and if you like it, then you can also enroll in the course. Now, the university wits, they made significant contributions to the Elizabethan literature, elevating it to new heights. They were poets, playwrights, and pamphleteers. One of the most notable pamphlets from this group is Robert Greene's pamphlet titled Greene's Growth's Worth of Wit, Bought with the Million of Repentance. Remember the name here, written by Robert Greene. This pamphlet is famous for its critique of Shakespeare, okay? Now, in his critique, Greene referred to Shakespeare as an upstart crow, beautified with our feathers. Again, remember this. Now, Greene's comment is seen as an expression of jealousy and disdain towards Shakespeare, whom Greene perceived as a newcomer, who was infringing on the established playwrights of the time. We also have Christopher Marlo, another prominent Elizabethan dramatist who wrote the highly famous and rightfully so Dr. Faustus. This play centers on Renaissance humanism, showcasing the importance of human reason while also highlighting its potential flaws. Faustus's character, he demonstrates the era's intellectual aspirations and the dangers of overreaching ambition, critically reflecting on the prevalent Renaissance ideals during his time. Now that we've talked about the dramatists, let's shift our focus to the major poets of the Elizabethan period who were known for their exceptional contributions to literature literature, especially in the form of sonnets. The sonnet was the most popular poetic form during this era, and it was largely popularized by this writer, by this man called Henry Howard. He was the Earl of Surrey, and also by Sir Thomas Wyatt. Okay, both of them, they introduced blank verse and the sonnet form to English literature, setting the stage for future poets, including Shakespeare, because Shakespeare is the one, who would come and who mastered this form and popularized these forms. Among the most distinguished poets, two names stand out the most: Edmund Spencer and Sir Philip Sidney. Spencer is often called the poet's poet, and he significantly influenced the Elizabethan literary scene with his works like the Shepherd's Calendar. Now, the Shepherd's Calendar was dedicated to Sir Philip Sidney by Edmund Spencer. Shakespeare, though, was renowned primarily for his plays, he also made significant, substantial contributions to poetry. His sonnet collection is celebrated for its deep exploration of the themes such as love, beauty, and the passage of time. For a detailed study of Shakespeare's sonnets, you can refer to the extensive resources available on my YouTube channel. Again, like I said, I have multiple videos on Shakespeare and also on his sonnets alone. Okay, let's also talk about Sir Philip Sidney, who was known as the Renaissance man. He was a multifaceted figure. He was a courtier, he was a soldier, writer, and a philosopher. His tragic death on the battlefield, where he famously gave his water to a dying soldier, that exemplifies his noble character. Sidney is also credited with being the first significant literary critic in English literature who authored the influential work titled The Defense of Poetry, also known as An Apology for Poetry. This treatise defends the values of poetry and its importance in society, making it a foundational text in literary criticism. So these are just some of the most important things from this age that I wanted to discuss. There is so much more to this age, and remember, it's a highly significant period from the point of view of the UGC NET exam as well. So make sure that you study it properly. If you're preparing on your own, just go to my website on the syllabus section and just access the complete list of writers from there that you need to prepare for your exams. Alternatively, if you want, you can enroll in my online course where I discuss each aspect of this age in detail. I have detailed lectures on not just each work of Shakespeare but on many others as well. So make sure that you check out my online course on my website theankitajain.com, and in case you have any queries, feel free to reach out to me on the number showing on the screen. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not already, and do not forget to press the bell icon to be notified whenever I upload a new video. If you want to get in touch with me, follow me on Instagram and Facebook.